Uh, HOD ma'am, may we start the program? HOD ma'am, HOD ma'am, HOD ma'am, Netaji sir, Netaji sir, are you present?
I think ma'am has not joined yet.
Yes, ma'am has joined. Ma'am has
Yes,
joined.
yes, we can start now.
Oh, ma'am can start. Okay. Okay, Anna, please start the program, please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I welcome you all, our respected participants, on behalf of Vidyanagar College. Today, Vidyanagar College, Department of Commerce, in collaboration with IQAC, is presenting a one-day international level webinar on COVID-19 economic and tourism aspects. Today, our respected principal, Sir Dr. Shujya Prakash Agrawal is unable to join us due to some urgent work, but he has sent his best wishes for the accomplishment of the successful of this webinar. I request our Bhaskar sir, coordinator of IQSC and head of the Department of English, Professor Shubhro Prasad, to present the session address. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this international webinar on behalf of the principal, the authorities, the faculties, staff, and students of Vidyanagar College, South 24 Parganas, West Bengal, India. Over the last 1 month, we have been organizing a host of webinars, but most of them are at state level. This is the very first one with the international flavor. And this is a webinar on a very pertinent topic, COVID-19, economic and tourism aspects. We have two distinguished speakers amongst us. On behalf of the college authorities and on behalf of our respected principal, specifically Dr. Shujya Prakash Agrawal, I would like to extend a very cordial welcome to Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev and Professor Amolendu Bhuya. Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev is the director of the MBA program and associate professor of the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. And we also have Professor Amolendu Bhuya, in a way representing India, Professor, Department of Commerce, Kalyani University, Nadia, West Bengal, India. We have been waiting very eagerly to listen to both of them. They have a very vast reservoir of experience and expertise, and we'd like them to draw on all their resources so that our students can be benefited as we deal with the very burning aspect of economics and tourism in this COVID-19 era. As we have been discussing about the pandemic, we all realize that the pandemic is not just a health issue. It's more than a medical concern. A pandemic, a phenomenon touching politics, economics, society, education, and our very response to our everyday life and everyday living. Who knows that the webinar may be the kind of communicating tool in the future, and instead of the physical seminars that we have been accustomed to, we are likely to organize more webinars in the future. I again welcome the two distinguished speakers, Dr. Dev and Professor Guya, along with all my respected colleagues of Vidyanagar College and our colleagues from other colleges, the staff of Vidyanagar College, the students of our college, along with the students of any other college who might be participating in the webinar on the Google Meet and YouTube live platform. The Department of Commerce, as they are organizing a number of webinars in the last few days, have proved themselves to be a very active part of our college family. And the holding of the webinars goes a long way to say that the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown situation is not a situation of inertia. It gives us an opportunity of vibrant interaction with people with whom we may not have thought earlier to come into contact with. And thus the lockdown, rather than being a locking procedure, becomes a new way of emanating all our subdued urges, desires, extending our hands to a number of people, and thereby becoming really a liberating force rather than a force that subdues us and locks us down. So with our ode to this new liberation, I welcome everyone to join this webinar and enjoy a thrilling experience of being enriched, being enthralled, and being emancipated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your enlightening and motivational speech. We will move forward. Now I would request Professor Netaji Prasad Puri, Associate Professor of Commerce, to present the inaugural address to inaugurate this session in this forum. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anna. On behalf of the Department of Commerce, Vidyanagar College, South 24 Parganas, let me also welcome you to this one-day international webinar. The topic is COVID-19, Economic and Tourism Aspects. By COVID-19, so many areas are affected. I think economic and tourism, both these areas also seriously affected. Regarding economic, the Indian economy was expected to lose over 32 rupees crores every day during the first 21 days of complete lockdown, which was declared following the coronavirus outbreak. And regarding tourism, the coronavirus pandemic has dealt a crippling blow the Indian travel and tourism industry and the entire value chain linked to the sector is likely to lose around rupees 5 lakh crore, according to a study by industry chamber CII and hospitality consulting firm Hotel Health. This has been served and declared on September 9, 2020. Two eminent speakers are in this webinar. First is Professor Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev from University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and his topic is effects of COVID-19 tourism aspect. And the second one, eminent speaker, that is Professor Dr. Omolendu Bhuya from University of Kolani, West Bengal, and his topic is effects of COVID-19 economic aspect. I welcome you, and I also, along with all the participants, is eager to listen to your valuable deliberations. Thank you very much, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. Today's topic, COVID-19 economic and tourism aspects. Tourism and economy goes hand by hand, as it is observed that the tourism economy represents 5% of the world's total GDP. And as we all know, this particular industry is hugely affected due to this COVID-19 pandemic. We are all eager to hear all our two respected speakers today about this. Now I request Professor Doyle I, Assistant Professor of Department of Commerce, to introduce our eminent resource persons to our participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Anna Roy. Good evening to everyone. Now we are going to start the first part of today's international webinar. On behalf of Vidyanagar College, I, Doyle Ice, Assistant Professor of Commerce Department, extend a warm welcome to our valued learned speaker, Professor Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev from Bangladesh. I am feeling much honored to get an opportunity to introduce Professor Dr. Santosh Dev, who needs no introduction as he is a man of international eminence. We are privileged enough to have a knowledgeable and resourceful person like him. Now I have the honor to say a brief about his teaching and academic career. He completed his MBA in marketing from University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and also completed executive program in strategic digital marketing from University of Cambridge. He got his PhD degree in service management, and presently he is serving as director of MBA evening program and associate professor of Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and also acting as a visiting professor in Vincent Paul University, Lublin, Poland. He has many international publications in the era of business and tourism in renowned journals. So with this brief introduction about him, I would request Sir to take the charge of this part of our webinar. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. You are audible.
Okay, yes, sir, thank you. Thank you. I just take 1 minute time to open my slide.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Not an issue.
Can you see my slide, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's visible, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. At first, I want to give the special thanks to Vidyanagar College to invite me today's fantastic topic, which is related to the recent phenomena, COVID-19 economics and tourism aspect. Really, I'm so happy. So, before start my presentation, I want to give the special thanks to Dr. Surya Prakash Agarwal, the principal of Vidyanagar College, and Professor Dr. Shah, head of the Department of English, and Professor Mamata Kanchilal, Head Department of Commerce, and I want to give the special thanks to Gaurav Dash to invite me in today's session. And also with me today there will be present another eminent professor, Dr. Amilandu Bhuya, the University of Kolani. Really, he's a very nice speaker and very sound in finance aspect. Respected teacher and dear fellow mates and the participants, good afternoon. Today, I'm just going to talking about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on tourism business. Before going to start the presentation, the first time we are just going to talking about in last 70 years scenarios represented that each and every terrorist attack and outbreak and a global economic crisis, always there is a very fast hit on the tourism sector. So right now, I'm just going to show here there is a one of the statistics of last 20-year scenario. If you are just going to consider the 2001, the September 11 terrorist attacks, also there to impact on the travel of international passenger and arrival of international tourists from one country to another countries. So if you are just going to consider the 2001 in 11 September, so definitely that was create a very afraid situation in the mind of the international tourists. So that's why this one is a red color and also decreases the international passenger that traveling from one country to another country for tourism purposes. And also this scenario represented that the international tourists also decreasing day by day because of international terrorist attack. But after that, the 2003 is going to representing another one outbreak is related to the SARS outbreak. So definitely that one also impact adversely in the international tourists. So this one also represented that international tourist is also decreases to traveling from one country to another country, and also the passenger whenever they uses the air lines to travel from one country to another country, this one also decreases as unexpected rate. But if you're just talking about the 2009 is related to the global economic crisis, so definitely economy is a very important thing and which is related to the travel decision making process. Whenever the per capita income of a country is very good and very fantastic, people would love to travel in the different countries. They would love to spend their money to visit the world famous destination, and also they're just going to looking for leisure and recreation. But today, if we are just going to consider the 2009, and globally, there the economic crisis, and also people they don't have enough money in their pocket to travel one destination to another destination. So that's why that one a huge adverse impact on international tourist arrival to one country to another country. But if you're just going to another one scenarios is related to 2015, 2015 shows that the MERS outbreak also there have the adverse impact on international tourism, but this one impact is not too much high like SARS virus and economic crisis. So global journey 2030. 2030 is related to sustainable development goal. Sustainable development goal, there have 17 goals, but out of 17 goals, 3 goals is directly related to tourism sector. So if we are just going to talking about to achieve the sustainable development goal, we have to be focused on tourism sector and to create the employment opportunity, to generate the economic revenue, and to make sure the export revenues from the visitor, and to make sure the capital investment. So everything is related to the sustainable development goal. So today's the time tourism is a very key and focus point. In 2019, travel and tourism direct, indirect, and induced impact is counted for that is 8.9 trillion US dollar. That was in 2019. But if you are just going to consider after the Second World War in globally, total number of international tourists is increasing, and people would love to traveling or roaming from one destination to another destination. If you are just going to think about the European countries, the Schengen countries, the people they would love to traveling one country to another country at the weekend, and after the weekend they again join their job. So after the Second World War, internationally the international tourist is already increasing. But if you are just going to consider that 1950 there was only 25 million international tourists in globally, but 2019 the scenarios is represented that 1.56 billion. That one represented that in 2019. But in 2019, statistics also shows that 10.3% GDP contribution to the global GDP contribution, and 330 million people they engage in tourism sector, and out of 10 people, one people job employment opportunity created in tourism. But if you just look at the last 5 years, statistics also shows that out of 4 people, one people employment opportunity created in tourism. But today, the 2019 1.7 trillion visitor export US dollar earned in globally, and 948 billion capital investment in 2019. But right now, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on global tourism. But I just show here there is one of the statistics in July, in September, and in December that all are the predicted. So in scenario one is in July, in globally there is also just going to represented that 58% international tourists in compare to 2019. In 2020, 58% is decrease. In scenario 2, in comparison to 2019, 70% international tourist is decreases. And we also predicted that in December, globally, there will be 78% international tourists will be decreases. So this one is a statistics which one are predicted by UNWTO, United Nations World Tourism Organization. But also this one is the first quartile. This is from January to March, only 22% international tourists down. But as a whole year in 2020, that is also predicted that 60 to 80% international tourists will be decreased. But the impact of the COVID-19 on tourism in January to April, if you just look at the statistics from UNWTO, this one also represented that in 2019, 1.5 billion international tourists. But in 2020, that one predicted that the 4% international tourists will be increased in 2020. But the reverse phenomena we have seen from January to April in 2020, already 44% international tourist decreases. But if you just look at the previous slide, in up to September, there is already 70% international tourists up to September already decreases in the global market. But if you just consider that the America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific countries, America, there right now the international tourist is too much high. So the representing the statistics of 2019, there is a 20 million international tourists that travel in America, and also predicted that in 2020 this year there will be a 2% tourist growth rate. But the reverse phenomena we have seen the statistics from January to April, there is a 36% international tourist already decreases. So Europe, that is called the haven of tourism. So in 2019, 745 million international tourists that traveling in European countries, and also predicted that in 2020 their 4% international tourists will be increased. But there is one of the big hindrance of COVID-19, and due to the COVID-19, from January to April, 44% international tourist decreases from European countries. So today, Africa also focus on tourism, and in 2019, 73 million international tourists they have, and from January to April, 35% international tourists already decreases. But there is a very interesting point is Middle East. Today, the Middle East, they focus on tourism to enhance their economic growth of a country, to create the employment opportunity. So that's why 61st million international tourists already travel in 2019 in Middle East countries. Middle East right now, they focus on religious tourism, halal tourism, and they also focus on nature-based tourism. But the last one point is related to Asia and the Pacific. So in 2019, 361st million international tourists travel in Asian countries, but also predicted that 4% international tourist growth rate will be in 2020. But the statistics shows that January to April, 51% international tourists already decreased from Asia and the Pacific countries. But right now, the another one statistics is related to inbound European, total inbound Europe. There is already 79% international tourists already decreased from European countries, and South Africa 87%, Central America 63.6%, and Caribbean 66.5%. North America 63.7% international tourists already decreased. Overall, the America, the scenarios is represented that up to today, the scenario is 68.1% international tourist already decreases in comparison to 2019. But in Middle East, there is 66.1%, and North Africa 30%, and Sub-Saharan Africa there is also 33.3%. Overall, Africa and Middle East, the statistics shows that 49.9%, near about 50% international tourist decrease from Africa and Middle East. But right now, the impact of tourism in a global economy, if you just consider that the losses and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on global tourism, that is also predicted that in 2019, 1.5 international tourist 1.56, but in 2020 that is also predicted that 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourists will be decreased. But in 2019, 2.9 trillion direct GDP contribution from the tourism sector, but due to the COVID-19, the losses is predicted US dollar 910 billion to US dollar 1.2 trillion. Export revenue from tourism sector may be losses due to COVID-19. But in 2019, 330 million people they are engaged in tourism sector in globally, and also predicted that 100 to 120 million people job risks at right now due to COVID-19. If COVID-19 is prolonged for the future time, and the impact on the tourism sector and job risks, the total statistics may be increased in upcoming days. So I do believe that the crisis, the worst crisis and international tourism has faces since the record of 1950. After the Second World War, internationally, the tourism sector is people would love to traveling from one country to another country, and European people they would love to traveling to another country. They want to work in another country. At the weekend, they just come back at their home country and they just passing their time with their family member. So also we are just going to consider that the another one statistics, the global statistics, and Europe, Asia, America, Africa, and Middle East. But in 2009 to 2019, values is representing that world in globally 5.1% international tourist is increased. But in 2020, from January to April, the statistics shows that 44% international tourists already decreased from global tourism market. But if you're just going to consider the specific market is related to the Europe, and Europe statistics shows that from 2009 to 19 in last decade, the 4.6% international tourists already increased in last decade, but from January to April, 44% international tourists already decreased. Asia and Pacific is the too much important statistic shows that in last decade there is 7.1% international tourist growth rate. So there is a mentionable and highest rate in a global market, but the reverse phenomena we just seen in January to April, that is a 51st%. And America in last decade 4.6%, Africa 4.4%, Middle East 2.7%, but Middle East also 40% international tourist is decreased from January to April. But the lowest amount of international tourists decrease in African countries, that is 35%, and highest amount of international tourists decrease from Asia and Pacific countries, that is 51st%. But right now, I'm just going to show here the impact of COVID-19 on tourism, and there is one of the comparative analysis between Bangladesh and India. Right now, I'm just going to talking about the India and their country tourism granting status is incredible India, and GDP contribution is 9.2%, and 12.75% country workforce is employment opportunity created in tourism sector. Over the 87 million people they employed in tourism sector during the time of 2018 to 2019, and 38 million jobs risks due to the COVID-19 in tourism sector in India. And this sector also counted as 12.75% employment opportunity created in tourism sector. Directly, its contribution is 5.56%, and indirectly 7.19%. And 70% of the workforce due to the COVID-19, and the report of KPMG that also shows that a financial service and business advisory firm shows that 70% of workforce and their job is risked right now due to the COVID-19. But if you look at the Bangladesh, their tourism country branding status is beautiful Bangladesh, and GDP contribution is 4.4%, and 2.95 million employment opportunity created in tourism sector in last year. More than 1 million job risks right now. Tour Operator Association of Bangladesh also estimated that 5,700 crore taka may be lost in tour operator sector, and Pacific Asia Travels Association Bangladesh chapter also estimated that 9,705 crore taka may be losses due to the COVID-19. But the overall the impact and losses may be more than 15,000 crore taka due to the COVID-19 in tourism sector of Bangladesh. But right now, the recovery strategy for rebooting the economy, there is a very specific strategy. We just talked about that travel tomorrow. So today's the concept is stay at home today and travel tomorrow. So due to the COVID-19, long time the people they just stay at home. After that, the people they would love to traveling the different destination and they're just looking for the pleasure, and people they just traveling. This picture also shows that people they just traveling from one country to the another country, but they just maintaining the wearing the masks and maintaining the health instruction. So right now, if we are just going to focus on rebooting the economy, we have to be focused on responsible tourism. Responsible tourism concept is related to wearing the mask during the time of traveling and maintaining the social distancing during the time of traveling and maintaining the health guideline, protect yourself and protect the society. So the concept is you have to be protect yourself and you have to be protect your society. So right now, the government of each and every country to protect the life and livelihood, they just take a strategy to reopen the tourism destination and recreational park in a limited way by maintaining the health guideline to survive the life and livelihood. But there is one of the statistics is related to 1st August, the European Union Schengen countries, they also open and they also permitted to travel the people from one country to another country. And I personally believe that to revive the tourism sector, government they must have to be provided incentives program and loan at a relaxation rate of interest, and I do believe that the cash support is a very important thing to revive this tourism sector. Electronic and print media, they should have taken a positive approach to rebranding the tourism sector, because electronic and print media, they just provided the very positive report, and they also provided by maintaining the healthy situation, by maintaining by wearing the masks and by maintaining the health guideline, we may travel from one destination to another destination. And we have to be observe the behavioral pattern of the tourist, because post-COVID era, the people income will be decreased. So people they would love the low price domestic tourism package to traveling from one destination to the another destination. So post-COVID to revive the tourism sector, each and every country they should have to be focused on their domestic tourism, and I personally believe it will take time for international tourism. But after the pandemic, we have to be focused on cost-cutting approach and video conferencing, virtual tourism conference, virtual meeting, virtual tourism fair, and also need to monitor the behavioral pattern of the tourist. And UNWTO also they're just going to call for international donor agencies to provide the support the tourism related stakeholder to revive from unexpected losses. So I do believe that in upcoming days, the post-viral arena, the people might be allowed to traveling from with antibodies against the COVID-19, and with some sort of assurance, and also offered the discount package on airlines and hotels. So I do believe that after the post-COVID era, to revive the tourism sector, each and every country government they have to be given more emphasis on low interest rate, flexible loan and cash incentives, and at a time private and public cooperation. I mean, PPP is a very important thing in upcoming days to revive the tourism sector. I do believe that in new normal world, the people they just thinking in a new way, and people they would love to traveling the different countries. That's why the people they just wearing the masks and maintaining the social distancing, and also they're just going to maintaining the health guideline. And I do believe that if the tourism sector is revived, that will create the more employment opportunity, and also will be created the more sound and revolting the economy of a nation. Thank you so much to give me floor of today to analyze the session, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev, sir, for sharing your wide range of knowledge and huge experience with all of us. On behalf of Vidyanagar College, I convey my gratitude and extend the heartiest thanks to respected Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev for giving such an informative and insightful presentation and adding on to all of our knowledge. Now I would like to request Professor Subrata Das, Assistant Professor of Department of Commerce, to introduce our very honored speaker for the second half of the session. Over to you, Professor Subrata Das.
Thank you, Orna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, Orna. Good evening, everyone. Now we are going to start the next part of today's webinar. On behalf of Vidyanagar College, I, Subrata Das, Assistant Professor of Commerce and Joint Convener of today's webinar, extend the warm welcome to our respected speaker, Professor Dr. Amolendu Bhuiya, to our and feeling much honored to get an opportunity to introduce Professor Dr. Amolendu Bhuiya. Dr. Amolendu Bhuiya is Professor, Department of Commerce, University of Kalyani, West Bengal, India. He has experience in teaching in the subject of finance, taxation, and statistics for more than 24 years. He has published 108 research articles and 8 books in the national and international repertory. He served as an editor-in-chief, American Journal of Theoretical and Applied Business Science published through United States of America for 2 years. Now, he is an editor-in-chief, Indo-Asian Journal of Finance and Accounting. Dr. Bhuiya acted as a keynote speaker in 36 national and 5 international conferences. So many PhD and MPhil scholars are guided by Professor Bhuiya. With this brief introduction about him, I will request sir to take the charge of this part of our webinar. Over to you, sir.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir. And thank you so much to join with us, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks to the Department of Commerce, Vidyanagar College, and IQAC, Vidyanagar College, for inviting me to act as an invited speaker in your international webinar. And respected Principal Dr. Agarwal, respected IQAC Director, respected HOD, Department of Commerce, Mamta Jilal, and department teachers in the Department of Commerce, Netari, Doel, Gaurav Das, and other teachers of the Department of Commerce and teachers of other departments of Vidyanagar College. And co-speaker, today's first speaker, Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev, he is specialist in marketing and tourism from Dhaka University. He is my good friend, close friend, like brother. And participants, ladies and gentlemen, and now just I am sharing my PPT. Just 1 minute. Is it visible to all?
Yes, sir. No, sir, not yet.
What is the problem? Not visible?
No, sir.
Not yet,
No,
sir.
Not yet, sir. Not yet, sir. Not yet.
Oh. This is my problem. Doctor. আসতে বলো তো এই একটা প্রবলেম আমার এই খুলছে না
Sir, now it is visible, sir.
দাঁড়াও Now is it visible?
Yes, sir. Your screen is now visible, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay, today I would like to talk about COVID-19, basically economic aspect. And one question was raised in my mind just after May 2020. Whether COVID-19 induced economic crisis or economic downturn, economic resource. Then one question, again one question was raised. Is it economic downturn? Is it economic recession? Is it economic crisis? Whether is it economic depression? Because most of the economists talked about economic crisis, global economic crisis, and COVID-19 impact on the global economy also on our economy. A large impact, big impact on the Indian economy, on the global economy. Then we can say COVID-19 induced economic crisis.
Sorry, sir, I'm
But
interrupting you. Sir, sir, I'm interrupting. Your
sir,
PPT is not visible, sir. Sir, I am interrupting. Your PPT is not
not
visible, sir.
visible.
No, sir, no,
Yes,
sir.
sir, it's not visible.
Participants are asking for that.
Oh, ho, ho. Can I send it to your mail ID?
Yes, sir, you may. Yes, sir, you may. Yes, sir, you may.
Hello.
Yes, sir, sure. Please send it.
Okay. Please tell me the mail.
Sir, I will give you a. I will write down your WhatsApp, sir.
Okay, okay. এমন problem না। Gaurav,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sending it, sir.
okay.
Sir, I'm always send please.
Okay, 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 okay.
What's it?
2019 009 Gmail.com. 2009 Gaurav Dash. I have sent.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Gaurav.
Just a minute. Okay, sir. Just a minute. Sir, should I present, sir? Sir, present করবো?
হ্যাঁ 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 স্টার্ট প্রবলেম Shall I continue?
Sir, just wait a minute, sir. Just wait a minute. I will tell you, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hi, sir. Please start, sir.
Okay, okay. I'm so sorry. Um,
Not an issue, sir. Please start, sir. Not an issue.
okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. I again, I'm starting my presentation. I'd like to talk about the particular topic is the COVID-19 induced economic downturn in India. Before going to the particular issue, if you consider the year 2019, when the year 2019 was completed, Indian economy was not so strong. The year 2020 began in Indian economy was not better because the downward trend in domestic demand, 2-year low credit growth, poor private consumption, and the poor state of construction were seen, and those factors actually hurt the economy. If you think about the month January 2020, the Indian economy thereafter on and from 25th March, the government was announced the lockdown because of protecting the COVID-19 measures, COVID-19 issue, and up to, and now we are in the phase of Unlock 5. If you consider the first quarter of the particular calendar year 2020, our Indian economic growth, GDP growth, was decreased to 3.1 positive percentage. And after during the lockdown period from April to June, the Indian economy has published Indian economic review has been published by the Indian government, and we have seen that the India's GDP growth has been decreased negative 23.9%, means about 24%, versus March plus 3.1%. It was the worst performance among G20 nations and as well as G7 nations, and significantly below the expectation of the most economies. Because if you consider the IMF report 2020 in January, IMF based on the economy, IMF has projected Indian economy growth will be reduced to 4.5%. And thereafter, World Bank and also in June, World Economic Outlook has been published by International Monetary Fund, and again they have modified the report because of COVID-19. COVID-19 badly affect the Indian economy, and then 1.8% positive will be the Indian economic growth during the year 2020, during the calendar year. But what we have seen, during the second quarter of the calendar year or the first quarter of the financial year 2020, Indian GDP growth, the GDP growth of the Indian economy was very lower. Please, back. Was very much back. Very much lower than the other economies, other 213 countries and 2 stations, and even UK's GDP growth negative more than 20%, and India's economic growth was very low and negative 23.9%. Why 23.9% negative Indian economic growth? Question may arise because of stringent COVID-19 induced national lockdown, created a double whammy through both a supply and demand side shock, and businesses were shutting down while consumers were forced to stay home. The continued spread of the virus and the imposition of irregular slowdown across the country depress sentiment and disrupts economic activity. The growth of the severe fall in economic activity has also damaged the household and corporate incomes and also the balance sheets of the corporates. And amid limited fiscal support, fiscal deficit has been increased day by day. A looming deterioration in asset quality in the financial sector will hold back credit provision amid weak bank capital buffers. In this way, some economic factors affect the Indian economy. Some economic indicators adversely affect the Indian economy negatively, and that's why the GDP growth of the Indian economy has been decreased during complete lockdown period, 2 months, and the first unlock phase. But you can see the newspaper, India's production has been increased. Export has been increased during unlock 5 phase. And in a way, consumer confidence index and also purchase manager index has been increased. Now we can. Is it economic down? Because the World Bank, Indian Monetary Fund, and also other agencies, different agencies, they have projected about economy. Indian economy will be negative during the financial year 2021, but it will be decreased. It will be decreased at less than 10% because of foreign investment. In this way, can we say, is it an economic crisis? Is it economic downturn, economic recession, or is it economic depression? Now, coming to different terminology, what is meant by the term economic recession? I can say, according to my opinion, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Someone not clear. Now, what is economic recession? Because I am, according to my opinion, it is an economic downturn just before the economic recession. It is not a economic depression. It is not a economic crisis also. Why? We have to know the meaning of different terminology. What is economic crisis? What is economic recession? Economic recession is a significant decline in activity spread across the economy, lasting more than few months. We have seen that. We have already experienced about 6 months in the Indian economy. COVID-19 adversely affect the Indian economy about more than 6 months. Normally, real income is visible, real GDP normally visible, employment, industrial production and wholesale retail, both wholesale retail sales will be decreased. This is called economic recession. But we cannot consider it economic recession because not only the on the basis of only 3 months report, only April to June, we cannot say it is economic recession. Therefore, I have used the particular term. It may be an economic downturn, maybe an economic slowdown. Now, question may arise: what is economic slowdown? I have already mentioned it is an economic downturn because just before the economic recession. Now, what is just before going to the meaning of economic depression? We have to know the meaning of economic depression. When the real economic activities spread across the country, spread across the economy, and adversely total GDP growth negative during the whole year, not only the few months, and also unemployment has been increased, inflation has been increased, trade deficit has been increased, current account deficit has been increased, and also all the economic factors, economic fundamentals are weak. Then we can say it is economic depression. And if you consider 1929-30, then we can say it is economic depression. But COVID-19 adversely affect the global economy, including the Indian economy. If it is prolonged more than a year, actually affect all the economic factors adversely affect the Indian economy, then I can say first, Indian economy, COVID-19 may be induced economic recession, and if it is prolonged more and almost all the economic activities are stopped, then I can say it is economic depression. But at present we cannot consider the term economic depression and also economic recession, and that's why I have used the particular term economic downturn. And now, what is meant by the term economic downturn? I have written, just you can see the meaning of the particular term. When real GDP is negative or very low, we know, if you consider the 3 months report, our GDP, Indian economy, GDP of Indian economy was negative 24%. Higher unemployment, we know, if you consider the employment has been increased, unemployment rate has been increased, and now it has been decreased according to the CMIE report. And also, if a government borrowing is increased, we know government has already borrowed 12 lakh crore rupees, and also the economist advised to the central government that the Indian government, central government has to borrow again more than 4 lakh crore to survive the economy, for social security, for to protect the society, to protect the economy. Obviously, that is the government borrowing, falling asset prices and house. If you consider the asset prices, mean the share prices, we know our share prices are volatile, but it has been increased only because of foreign investment and domestic institutional investment, and no other factors positively affect the Indian stock market. And we know house prices are falling because from the year 2019 it was not sold, because demand of house selling has been decreased, and at present consumers and individuals and also corporates are not interested to purchase new house, but it has been slightly changed during the month September. Lower investment. People are not interested to spend their money to the non-discretionary goods or assets. Obviously, next point, lower consumer confidence. Consumer, obviously, because demand has been decreased, and COVID-19 actually negatively, adversely affect the demand and supply factor. And demand and supply, if both are not significantly improved, Indian economy cannot be survived during the year 2021. And because of lower demand and lower production, because of lockdown, national lockdown, and also disruption of supply chain, consumer confidence has been decreased. Consumer spending has also been decreased. And now the negative output gap. If you just look at the picture, what is output gap? If the actual output and difference between the actual output and the potential output is called the output gap, and negative output means when actual output is less than the potential output. COVID-19, because of lockdown, because of disruption of supply chain, output gap has negatively. And if these factors are seen, then we can say the particular term, economic downturn. And that's why I have used the particular term at present. I can say COVID-19 is basically affect the Indian economy badly, but just before recession, and far before depression. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Just look at the picture of economic growth. I have already mentioned different rating agencies have been projected future economic growth. For July, September, it will also be negative. October, December, it will be negative. And also the total 2021 financial year, the India's GDP growth will be negative. And also, if you consider only the calendar year up to December, it will also be negative. But according to RBI, it will be 4.5% negative. But all other credit rating agencies and also different reports, they have projected Indian economic growth will be negative, and it will be more than 10%, maybe near to 14% during the whole year, whereas global GDP will be near to 4.4% during the calendar year. But Indian economy is now Indian economic activity was not good, satisfactory during the 2021 because of COVID-19, because of national lockdown, because of not increasing the demand factor, because of disruption of supply chain, because of decreasing purchase manager index both in manufacturing and supply services manufacturing index, because of decreasing consumer confidence index, because of increasing trade deficit, because of increasing trade balance, because of increasing inflation rate, because of increasing unemployment. These are the factors. These are the factors affecting the Indian economy badly. Next slide. Next slide. Now, what are the reasons for negative GDP? I will mention lots of factors. It will be divided into three parts. Some are demand factors, some are supply factors, and some are other macroeconomic factors or high frequency data. If you consider April to June, because April to June in only Indian economy was the worst performer during the period of COVID-19. And why? Because if you see the chart, almost all the growth indicator was negative except agricultural sector and government consumption. Other than government consumption and agricultural sector, all the sector growth indicators were negative. And it has been negative. All the factors have been negative during the month July also. And also these officially this data is not available. I can say almost all the factors during the period during the month August, it has been decreased, negative but negative almost, because 8 core industries, if you see the last just the second last 8 core sector growth, it has negative decrease, but negative up to the month of August, negative 6.4. This is very, very important. If you see the infrastructure growth, this is very, very important for surviving the economy, Indian economy. From April to August, negative 17.8% negative. But private consumption, service sector, demand and supply factor, all the manufacturing, mining, electricity, up to the month of August, it has been negative. And that's why this factor negatively affect the Indian economy, and that's why Indian economy economic growth was negative 23.9%. If you see the agricultural sector, because if you consider the migrant workers or daily wage workers, they are unemployed because of shutting down of businesses. Productions were stopped, were running stopped, and that's why migrant worker, daily wage worker, and also the other informal workers had no income. And out of them, about 30% out of informal sector workers were engaged in the agricultural sector. And at the same time, after the month of April, because disruption of supply chain adversely affect the agricultural sector, because agricultural goods were not sold during the month of April and March end, because of maintaining the social distancing policy. And thereafter, agricultural growth has been increased tremendously. Only the important factor, because Indian economy is basically an agricultural economy. Obviously, it will positively affect the Indian economy. Otherwise, Indian economic growth will be negative 34%, according to the report, World Bank report. And during the period of COVID-19, we have seen that government consumption has been increased. And this is a very good sign for the Indian economy. And about the April to June, the report, Indian Economic Review report, tells that government consumption has been increased up to positive 16% because of transferring cash, direct cash benefit to the poor section, and at the same time for maintaining for food security, food supplies to the free food supply to the poor section, including the migrant, daily wage worker and street vendors who have an account of Jan Dhan Yojana account or other account. In this way, we can say these factors negatively affect the Indian economy. Next slide. Now we can say what the reasons. There are lots of indicators I have already mentioned. If you see one by one, first one, economic policy uncertainty index. Just look at the figure. See the figure. Other than June, from March to August, economic policy uncertainty index has been increased. Actually, it will negatively, it has economic policy uncertainty index, if it is increased, adversely affect the Indian economy. Because different policies, these index are constructed on the basis of different policies taken by the government or by the Indian economy or by the Reserve Bank of India. If you consider infrastructure growth, I have already mentioned from March to August, infrastructure growth have been negative in all the months, has been negative in all the months from March to August. If you consider the consumer confidence index, because consumer confidence index, it has been decreased from January to July. It was 80.7, it has been increased 85.6 in March. But after lockdown, it has been decreased. But an unofficial estimate tells that consumer confidence index in September will be increased slightly. And if you think about if you consider the unemployment rate was very high during the month of complete lockdown or first unlock phase or second unlock phase. It has been increased, and it was more than 45 years unemployment rate. And COVID-19 adversely affect the Indian economy, because COVID-19 affect the production sector, demand factor, supply factor, and also the services sector, manufacturing sector. and indirectly affect the labor market, and unemployment rate was increased, and unemployment rate negatively affect the Indian economy. If you consider the index of industrial production is very, very important, because this index is very significant whether production production sector significantly positively affect the Indian economy or not. If you see that after February 2020, it has been negatively increased. But up to August, what we have seen, up to August, it is still negative. But the negative index percentage has been decreased because of unlock phase. We are in the unlock phase 5 up to unlock phase 4. Because of starting some production, it has been decreased. But because of lower demand and disruption of supply chain, it is still negative. An index of industrial production adversely affect the Indian economy. Now coming to the purchase manager index, both purchase manager index, manufacturing and services, both purchase manager index was decreased. If it is 50, more than 50, then the economy will be strong. And if it is less than 50, this is called contraction. And if you consider after March, April to July, purchase manager index was less than, in case of manufacturing, purchase manager index was less than 50. That means because of low demand, low production, people are not interested to purchase, to spend their money for non-discretionary goods. They only spend their money only for essential goods. That's why this has been decreased, and it will negatively affect the Indian economy. If you consider the month of September, manufacturing purchase manager index now 56.8, because we are in the unlock phase 5. We enter in the unlock phase 5. Obviously, production has been started. Supply chain has not been disrupted more, and therefore that's why manufacturing purchase manager index has been increased, and this is a good sign for the Indian economy. At the same time, services purchase manager index, and after March, services purchase manager index, it is still negative because of services purchase manager index, because of supply chain disruption, traveling disallowed, and international travel disallowed, and tourist spots, hotel, restaurants, and are basically were shutting down during the lockdown period up to unlock 2-3 phase, and that's why it has been decreased, and it will negatively this factor negatively affect the economic growth. If you consider the import and export, and the difference between the import and export, we call trade balances, and we can say it has been negative if you just see the export part, because foreign currencies earning, foreign currency earnings will be improved. Currency will be improved in case of export by the Indian businessman. But during the month of September, it has been increased because of unlock. because of all production, because of increasing production, because of there is slow small disruption of supply chain. Okay, and 5.27% positive during the month of September. But import and export during the phase of lockdown period other than May, export value, export index, export growth percentages were negative and adversely affect the Indian economy. At the same time, import, because raw materials and inputs are required, needed for the production purposes, and because of oil disallows and trade disallows, and also resistance of different sectors and shutting down of manufacturing sector. No raw materials were imported by the Indian economy, and that's why it has been decreased, and it will be negative 3.5% in August. And next slide. And these factors adversely affect the Indian economy. And next slide. Lots of reasons are there. I have mentioned some of the factors, some of the supply demand factors, and high frequency data and macroeconomic index. Trade balances, I have already mentioned export and import. This is the figure of crore rupees, lakh crore. Trade other than June, other than the month of June, trade balances were negative. That means it will negatively, adversely affect the Indian economy. Now coming to the financial sector. If you consider our two important stock exchanges and two important part, we can say 650. Both growth percentage was decreased during the month of May during the complete lockdown phases, and thereafter because of increasing foreign portfolio investment, domestic institutional investment, foreign direct investment, foreign inflow investment, and or that's why if you consider the stock market, we can say the stock market is was volatile, but it has been increased after March. It has been increased, but during the month of May it was decreased because of withdrawing money from the Indian financial market, and that's why during the month of May it was negative growth. We have seen negative growth, otherwise positively affect the Indian economy. If you consider the foreign investment, we have seen that other than the month of March and some cases in April, May, other than 2-3 months, and in more cases, foreign investors were invested in Indian market, Indian financial market, and these are the figure, and in this way it will positively affect the stock market, and stock market positively affect the Indian economy. And then last point, I can say the exchange rate. If you this is dollar exchange rate and rupee dollar exchange rate. Now it has been improved during the month of October 1-2. It has been improved slightly, but rupee was depreciated. If rupee is depreciated, it will affect the stock market, it will affect the export import market. In this way it will affect the Indian economy, and these are the these factors adversely affect the Indian economy, and we can say because of COVID-19. COVID-19 adversely affect these factors, and factors adversely affect the Indian economic growth. In this way, Indian economic growth was a negative 24, about 23.9%. Uh, if these factors are improved, we can say Indian economic growth will be improved, and many economists and many agencies are many agencies tell that Indian economy will be improved and it will be positive during the next financial year 2021-22. And next slide. Now, next slide. First, I have checked some. I have considered some factors. Which factors and how much affect the economic growth? I have considered here economic policy uncertainty index. This is a demand factor. Unemployment rate. This is a demand factor. Index of industrial unemployment supply. Index of production manufacturing PMI services. These are the high frequency data and census growth. And these I have considered here 6 important factors, and which factors and how much affect the Indian economy. Sorry, this is not global GDP. This is India's GDP growth. And I have taken the particular data from Bloomberg, BSE, and Statista databases. And because all the data I have considered here monthly data, you have seen that, and only the economic growth data, monthly GDP data, quarterly data transferred into monthly GDP data, and I have considered here correlation and regression analysis. And next slide. Next slide. Hello. Next slide, please.
Next slide. Next slide.
Next slide.
Next slide.
I think.
Hello, sir.
Oh. Hello.
Sir, is it okay, sir? Sir, is it okay? Sir, is it okay? Sir, is it okay? Sir, is it okay?
Is it? This is not visible. Okay, no problem.
It's a
No
policy
problem.
It's a policy prescription. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello. 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 Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Sir, I've disconnected. Sir, I've joined again. Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Sir is on mute, I guess. Go both of the officers can call him once.
Sir, please unmute yourself, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. PPT is not visible, no problem. According to the analysis, uh, what we have seen, other than stock market, I have considered Sensex. Other than stock market, all the factors, means unemployment rate, purchase manager, economic policy, uncertainty index, all the factors negatively. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Sir, you are audible, sir. And sir, your PPT,
Thank
what
you.
is the prescription is showing in the board, sir?
Okay. But just before policy prescription, I can say something.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All the factors, other than Sensex, all the factors negatively affect the Indian economy. My correlation and regression analysis shows that other than Sensex, I am telling you again, all the factors negatively affect the Indian economy. What will be the policy prescription? I can say some policy prescription should be there. The government has to, that's what I'm should it like please and government including and who have no income at present and should be transferred, and the central government has already declared up to 30th November, free ration will be transferred to the through public distribution system. And at the same time, the government should make adequate capital for the business, because we know MSME sector are the worst performer during the COVID-19 period, because MSME sector working capital of MSME sector are very low, and also because of shutting down of MSME sector, most of the workers lost their jobs, and MSME sector have a significant contribution for employment generation in India. And in this way, the government should make adequate capital to the small medium enterprises, so that businesses production, businesses services are improved. And lastly, I can say the government should fix the financial sector. Means, I can say more economic and financial reforms are necessary, so that financial economic activities are improved, and more foreign investment are investment in India, and also domestic institutional investors are also interested to invest in our country. In this way, financial sector will be strong, and at the same time, if the economic reforms are more economic reforms are there, are taken by the Indian economy, obviously our import export will be improved, and in this way trade deficit will be decreased, current account deficit will be decreased. In this way, economic growth will be positive, and we can say Indian economy at present, what we can say, economists also say, according to my opinion, in Indian economy at present, I can say it will be an economic downturn, not economic recession. COVID-19 has affect the Indian economy adversely, but it will not be an economic recession. It will not be an economic depression. Just we can say it will be an economic downturn, and economic slowdown will be decreased. Economic growth will be increased. In this way, our economy will be strong in the future month, and also in the future year. What the different agencies report tell that they have published in their report, Indian economic growth will be positive in the uh, next financial year. And for this reason, all the economic activities, including services sector, all the economic activities should be started, and most important, demand should be increased. And for that, Indian government has to take a necessary step so that the demand of the products are increased, and this way Indian economy will be strong, Indian economic growth will be increased. And now and at this moment, I will stop my lecture and end my lecture.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, sir. Thank you, sir. On behalf of Vidyanagar College, I convey my gratitude and extend the heartiest thanks to Professor Dr. Omolindu Bhuya for giving such an informative and insightful presentation and adding on to all of our knowledge through this webinar. We are really blessed to have you both, sir, as our bursars have pointed that it is the first international webinar that our college is organizing. So this would have been impossible without your precious time and huge bunch of knowledge. I convey heartiest thanks to all of our respected participants to stay with us. Now the forum is open for questions. Please drop your questions in the chat box, or if you're in YouTube live, please drop it in the comment section. Our team will answer concerned shortly. I will now request Professor Gaurav Dash, Professor Srijani Basu, Professor Toma Trivedi, and Professor Monalisa Bhome to conduct the question answer session. Over to you, Monalisa.
Before I start to question answer section, I'll thank both of the speakers, Dr. Santosh Kumar Dev and Professor Dr. Amolindu Bhuya. Uh, Both of the speakers, whenever I reach to their views regarding the seminar, both of them very heartily accept my proposal. And I am special thanks to Amolindu sir, because Amolindu sir was seriously ill, but but besides this illness, he have gladly received my proposal, and he was accepted my proposal and delivered the lecture in our way, international webinar. Now I request Mona Lisa to convey the question to the speaker. Over to you, Mona Lisa.
Yes, sir. Okay. Good evening, sir. And my first question is from Akash Kumar. This question is for Professor Santosh Das. Okay, and the question is: to what extent and in what ways does the tourism sector has impact on any nation's economy?
Thank you. Thank you so much for a nice question. Definitely, if we consider each and every country, tourism has a great impact to the GDP contribution of the nation. But if we are just going to consider last one decade, the Asia Pacific countries, we have seen that 7.51% international touristic growth rate. But if you just look at the European Union statistics, also shows that 730 million people already travel in European countries. So I just want to say that the economic contribution, really, if I'm just going to consider the economy of Bangladesh, 4.4% GDP contribution generated from tourism sector. But due to COVID-19 in this year, they're just suspected that more than 15,000 crore taka may be losses due to the COVID-19. And also, if you're just going to consider our neighbor country like India, GDP contribution from the tourism sector is 9.72%. So definitely there is a huge contribution also to the Indian economy. So I do believe that each and every time any kind of the pandemic, any kind of economic crisis, and any kind of terrorist attack also has an adverse impact on the economy of the nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, I switch over to Toma ma'am for the next question.
Yes, sir. To what extent, what would it affect in share market, and how can unemployment rate affect the nation economy?
There are two questions.
Yes, sir. There are two questions. First question is, what would it affect in the share market? And the second question is, how can unemployment rate affect the nation's economy?
First of all, very good question from the share market point of view. Because if GDP is decreased quarter by quarter, so what will be the impact on the share market? If Indian GDP is decreased quarter by quarter, obviously shareholder investors will not be interested to invest in the Indian share market. But if you think about the global economy, other than China, all the economic growth will be negative during the calendar year 2020. But because of low belief of the investors, especially from American investors and European investors are not interested to invest in Chinese market in spite of positive GDP. And then obviously, because India's GDP will be positive according to the various reports in the next year, ultimately the destination will be in India. And that's why foreign investors invest their money in the Indian market, and for that reason, India, in spite of decreasing GDP in India, share prices are increasing along with some volatility. There is no leverage effect. But Indian stock market is volatile. But volatility also negatively affect the sentiment of the investors. But again, I'm telling you, because of small belief about Chinese economy, especially in American and European investors, India's foreign investment by the foreign investor, India will be increased. Therefore, Indian stock market will be improved. This is my first answer. Second answer, please repeat the second question. Please repeat the second question.
How can unemployment rate affect the nation economy?
Okay. Unemployment rate. We have to understand why unemployment rates are increased. If workers lost their job, and during the COVID-19 period, because of supply chain disruption and low production, because of low demand and shutting down of production, worker lost their job. Obviously, unemployment rates were high, and it was very high during the month of May, April and May, and now it has been decreased. But if you consider the CMI report, I do not believe the particular report, because at present the actual unemployment rate may be more than what CMIE published in their report. But if you consider if unemployment rates are increased, then how unemployment rates affect the Indian economy, then you have to know the theory of unemployment rate and the GDP growth. If unemployment rates are increased, obviously the production will be decreased because of less quantity of low quantity of workers. It will increase the production cost because of wage rate will be increased because of if unemployment rates are increased, and when production will be started or is started, when the company start its production, obviously people who are not interested to join their company existing workplace, they want more wages because they have to maintain the social distancing policy, and in this way wage rate will be increased. It will increase the production cost, and if